चलते चलते ਅਸੀਂ ਗੌਰਮੈਂਟ ਕਾਲਜ 'ਚ ਆਏ ਹੈਗੇ ਆ। ਤਨਵੀਰ ਲਿਖਾਰੀ ਮੈਡਮ ਪ੍ਰਿੰਸੀਪਲ। ਅੱਜ ਇੱਥੇ ਲੈਕਚਰ ਦਾ RN ਮਾਟਾ ਮੈਮੋਰੀਅਲ ਕੋਈ ਲੈਕਚਰ ਹੈ ਤੇ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਨੇ ਜੇ ਲੈਕਚਰ ਦੇਣ ਲਈ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਪਤਵੰਤੇ ਸੱਜਣ ਸੱਦੇ ਹੋਏ ਨੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਵੀ ਦੱਸਣਗੇ ਤੇ ਲੈਕਚਰ ਜਿਹੜਾ ਹੋ ਰਿਹਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਵਾ ਇਹਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਵੀ ਦੱਸਣਗੇ। ਕੁਝ ਅਲੂਮਨੀ ਵੀ ਸੱਦੇ ਹੋਏ ਨੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਹੈਗੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਇਸ ਕਾਲਜ ਪੜ੍ਹਦੇ ਸੀਗੇ। ਮੈਨੂੰ ਤੁਸੀਂ ਆਪ ਹੀ ਦੱਸੋ ਇਹਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਤਨਵੀਰ ਜੀ।
ਹਾਂਜੀ, ਅਸੀਂ ਇੱਕ ਕੋਲੈਬੋਰੇਟਿਵ ਲੈਕਚਰ ਕਰਾ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ, ਐਕਸਟੈਂਸ਼ਨ ਲੈਕਚਰ ਪੋਸਟ ਗ੍ਰੈਜੂਏਟ ਡਿਪਾਰਟਮੈਂਟ ਆਫ ਇੰਗਲਿਸ਼ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ। ਇਹ ਪ੍ਰੋਫੈਸਰ RN ਮਾਟਾ ਮੈਮੋਰੀਅਲ ਲੈਕਚਰ ਇਸ ਨੂੰ ਕਹਿ ਰਹੇ ਹਾਂ ਔਰ ਇਹ ਸਾਡੇ ਐਲੂਮਨਾਈ ਦੇ ਸਹਿਯੋਗ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਔਰ ਸਾਡੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ TN ਮਾਟਾ ਫਾਊਂਡੇਸ਼ਨ ਹੈ ਉਸ ਦੇ ਸਹਿਯੋਗ ਨਾਲ ਹੀ ਅਸੀਂ ਕਰਾਤੇ ਪਏ ਹਾਂ। ਔਰ ਇਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਅਸੀਂ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਗੈਸਟ ਸਪੀਕਰ ਹੈ ਉਹ ਫਾਰਮਰ ਹੈਡ ਆਫ ਡਿਪਾਰਟਮੈਂਟ ਮਹਿੰਦਰਾ ਕਾਲਜ ਪਟਿਆਲਾ ਇੰਗਲਿਸ਼ ਡਿਪਾਰਟਮੈਂਟ ਦੇ ਹੈਡ ਔਰ ਸ੍ਰੀ ਗੁਰੂ ਗ੍ਰੰਥ ਸਾਹਿਬ ਵਰਲਡ ਯੂਨੀਵਰਸਿਟੀ ਦੇ ਵੀ ਹੈਡ ਰਹਿ ਚੁੱਕੇ ਹੈ, ਇੰਗਲਿਸ਼ ਡਿਪਾਰਟਮੈਂਟ ਦੇ ਡੀਨ ਲੈਂਗੁਏਜਸ ਰਹਿ ਚੁੱਕੇ ਹੈ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਅਸੀਂ ਖਾਸ ਤੌਰ 'ਤੇ ਇਸ ਲੈਕਚਰ ਲਈ ਬੁਲਾਇਆ ਹੈ। ਉਹ ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਮਾਡਰਨਿਜ਼ਮ, ਪੋਸਟ ਮਾਡਰਨਿਜ਼ਮ ਔਰ ਕ੍ਰਿਟੀਕਲ ਥਿਊਰੀ ਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ ਅੱਜ ਦੱਸਣਗੇ।
ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਕੀ ਮੈਸੇਜ ਦੇਣਾ ਚਾਹੁੰਦੇ ਹੋ ਇਸ ਦੇ ਬਾਰੇ? ਲੈਕਚਰ ਤੇ ਚੱਲ ਰਹੇ ਹੈਗੇ, ਬੱਚੇ ਹੀ ਬੈਠੇ ਨੇ, ਉਸ ਤੋਂ ਕੀ ਮੈਸੇਜ ਹੋਊਗਾ, ਬੱਚਿਆਂ ਨੂੰ ਕੀ ਸਿੱਖਣ ਨੂੰ ਮਿਲੂਗਾ?
ਦੇਖੋ, ਇਹ ਜਿਹੜਾ TN ਮੈਮੋਰੀਅਲ ਫਾਊਂਡੇਸ਼ਨ ਹੈ ਇਹ ਇੱਥੇ ਇੱਕ ਬਹੁਤ ਦੇਰ ਪਹਿਲਾਂ ਸਾਡੇ ਕਾਲਜ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਹੀ ਪੋਸਟ ਗ੍ਰੈਜੂਏਟ ਡਿਪਾਰਟਮੈਂਟ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਇੰਗਲਿਸ਼ ਦੇ ਹੀ ਪ੍ਰੋਫੈਸਰ ਹੁੰਦੇ ਸੀ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਸਟੂਡੈਂਟਸ ਨੇ ਰਲ ਕੇ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੀ ਇੱਕ ਯਾਦ ਵਿੱਚ ਇੱਕ ਫਾਊਂਡੇਸ਼ਨ ਬਣਾਈ ਹੈ। ਅੱਜ ਕੱਲ੍ਹ ਦੇ ਜ਼ਮਾਨੇ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਟੀਚਰ ਦੀ ਅਹਿਮੀਅਤ ਬਹੁਤ ਘੱਟ ਗਈ ਹੈ, ਸਾਨੂੰ ਲੱਗਿਆ ਕਿ ਇਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਦੀ ਇੱਕ ਟ੍ਰੈਡੀਸ਼ਨ ਆਫ ਜਿੱਥੇ ਟੀਚਰ ਨੂੰ ਆਨਰ ਕੀਤਾ ਜਾ ਰਿਹਾ ਔਰ 50 ਸਾਲ ਹੋ ਗਏ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਇਸ ਕਾਲਜ ਵਿੱਚ ਪੜ੍ਹਾਏ ਹੋਏ, ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਜਿਹੜੇ ਸਟੂਡੈਂਟਸ ਨੇ ਉਹ ਹਾਲੇ ਵੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਤੋਂ ਪ੍ਰਭਾਵਿਤ ਹੋ ਕਰ ਹਾਲੇ ਵੀ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਨੂੰ ਯਾਦ ਕਰ ਰਹੇ ਹੈ। ਇਹ ਇੱਕ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਦਾ ਇੱਕ ਮੈਸੇਜ ਸਟੂਡੈਂਟਸ ਨੂੰ ਦੇਣ ਲਈ ਕਿ ਮਹਾਨ ਟੀਚਰ ਨੂੰ ਕਿਸ ਤਰ੍ਹਾਂ ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਸਟੂਡੈਂਟਸ ਯਾਦ ਕਰਦੇ ਨੇ। ਉਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਸਟੂਡੈਂਟਸ ਦੇ ਵਿੱਚ ਮਿਸਟਰ ਸ਼ਿਵ ਦੁਲਾਰ ਸਿੰਘ ਢਿੱਲੋਂ ਜੋ ਕਿ IAS ਰਿਟਾਇਰ ਹੋਏ ਹੈ ਹੁਣੇ, ਉਹ ਨੇ ਔਰ ਬਹੁਤ ਸਾਰੇ ਉਮਦਾ ਲੋਕ IAS IPS ਉਹ ਸਾਰੇ ਹੀ ਇਸ ਫਾਊਂਡੇਸ਼ਨ ਦੇ ਨਾਲ ਵੱਡੇ ਇੰਡਸਟਰੀਅਲਿਸਟ ਇਸ ਨਾਲ ਜੁੜੇ ਹੋਏ ਹੈ जो अपने टीचर ਨੂੰ ऑनर करके उन्होंने याद करते हैं।
चलो देखिए, मैडम तनवीर लिखारी ने बताया कि जो स्टूडेंट हैं वो कैसे, जो पुराने स्टूडेंट हैं जो आज 70 साल के होंगे लेकिन 50 साल पहले जब कॉलेज में पढ़ते थे उनको कितना प्यार था, जो लेक्चरर होते थे कैसे परिवार की तरह रहते थे। उन्हीं की मेमोरी में ये जो आज प्रोग्राम चल रहा है, उनके अलुमनी जो स्टूडेंट थे उन्होंने ये प्रोग्राम ऑर्गेनाइज किया। चलो देखते हैं। और देखिए, आज हम मोर देन 100 ईयर ओल्ड ब्रिटिश रजीम में जो ये गवर्नमेंट कॉलेज बना था अंग्रेज़ों के वक्त, तो जहाँ पर आज आने का मौका मिला, तो जहाँ पर RN माटा मेमोरियल की तरफ से आज जहाँ पर लेक्चर रखा हुआ है, तो यहाँ पर लेक्चर में क्या कहते हैं, क्या बता रहे हैं, तो चलिए हम देखते हैं। गवर्नमेंट कॉलेज लुधियाना RN माटा मेमोरियल की तरफ से जहाँ पर जो लेक्चर चल रहा है, गणमान्य लोग हैं जहाँ पर, चलते हैं देखते हैं।
In order to look for answers to these fundamental questions, we need to cast a glance on the daily production. No, theory cannot be divorced from life. If it is divorced from life, it will become extremely abstract. So whenever I think of theory, I always look around myself and think of my life. Not my life, but life in general around us. In order to look for answers to these fundamental questions, we need to cast a glance on the daily production of life, on the circumstances in which we live today. We have to look at our own subjectivity, who we are, what kind of subjects we are. So the word subject itself is quite complicated. We don't say self. I didn't say the word self. Self means an autonomous self. Independent self, I can think for myself without bothering to without any extraneous consideration there is on my mind. That is self. But subject, the word subject can be understood in two ways. One is subject in the sentence, the doer. Somebody who does something is the subject. But at the same time, subject is also somebody who has been subjected to some forces. Right? So in place of using the word self, we use the word subject. I mean, these technical terms we need to understand. So we, as subjects, do we have the agency of a free subject? Now, what is agency? Because the word agency comes from agent. Right? Are we agents of our own actions? It means, actually agency refers to the power to make our own conscious choices without being subject to, again, any extraneous, any outside influences. Are people? I'll begin with a few examples that make me ponder these issues very deeply. The newspaper that I begin my day with is the Hindu. I've been reading it for the last maybe 30-40 years. Almost daily, the first 2 or 3 pages are advertisements, full-page advertisements of either civil services coaching centers or objects of desire. The things they want you to buy, they are called objects of desire. Known as consumer durables, but consumer durables are not durable, it is a contradiction. If a consumer item were a durable, then how would the consumer industry move on? So we are made to believe that we are buying consumer durables, whereas the consumer durable that you buy today has its obsolescence built into it. Right? It will become obsolete tomorrow. You buy a new brand or mobile phone today, the moment you get out to the shop, maybe the company has already released the next model, right? And your phone has become obsolete. So consumer goods are not durable at all anyway. We call them consumer durable. This is how the people who write ads, they are excellent spin doctors. They give a spin to the language and they make us believe what they want. Now, the same is the case with English News also. I think you must be reading English News as well. In place of the news, I get full-page advertisements of housing society or consumer goods. More than half of the inner pages are also devoted to ads. The last page, lifestyle, of the pull-out titled Chandigarh Tribune, here we must be having Ludhiana Tribune, is all about fashion and celebrities. There is the news. But the bigger question is, what do these newspapers take me for? What do they think of me? The overwhelming answer is a consumer with capital C. See, what I want to say is that we have been turned into consumers. This is true almost of the entire print media. They take their readers as consumers. We were called wise animals, Homo sapiens. Now we are no longer Homo sapiens, we are known as Homo consumericus. Consuming beings. And that reminds me of a beautiful poem by Cathy Asmi. He has written a beautiful poem called Mazi Ka Boj. That poem is about droids, Amazon droids. But there is one line in it which really brings forth what I want to say. पेट ही पेट मेरा जिस्म है, पेट ही पेट मेरा जिस्म है, न दिल है ना दिमाग. So we have been converted into appetites. All elementary canals who consume and then produce waste. That's it. Unthinkingly, we keep running after consumer goods. know, there can be exceptions. I don't say that there are no exceptions. But the fact is that generally this is true. If you mind, talk about every argument. Now, if this issue had been confined just to the print media, I would still think otherwise. The audiovisual media, which is much more immersive, to TV, to mobile phone, they are immersive media basically, and has greater power to convince its viewers, is replete with all kinds of ads. With our favorite films and sports celebrities arrayed to sell many things to us, guaranteeing happiness and success. And you have recently, perhaps you must have heard, there was a big tamasha outside Sachin Tendulkar's house, because he featured in an ad that sold, I think, gaming, online gaming. Whenever you see any ad of online gaming, underneath you will find written in very small letters that it can be addictive. So if it is addictive, it is like opium, then why is the government allowing you to sell it? Why is the state allowing you to sell this product, which is addictive, which is like opium? Because these are important questions that we need to ask if you want to understand why critical theory is important to us today. Now, another question is, when I buy something, is it really my choice that I buy it? Or my choice is an outcome of ideological coercion, some force acting upon me, unwillingness to me, unwillingness. Now we hear the sentence very often, consumer is the king. We get to hear this cliche every day, and we are made to believe it too. But is consumer really the king? You are consumers after all. This is the book from which the chapter Panopticism is there in your service. He concluded in his book Discipline and Punish, which was a study of prisons called carceral organizations or institutions, that surveillance is what normalizes domination of the surveiller over those who are under surveillance. Somebody is watching you, Big Brother is watching you. That is how your behavior can be controlled. Surveillance, Foucault found to be a better way of exercising state power than doing so through the exercise of violent power, which may not be possible to exercise over large sections of society. Moreover, state repression on a massive scale is always likely to invite rebellion against the state. Now, he found when things move, a combination of two words, one is deference and the other is deferral. Deferral is postponement, and deference, as I told you, how words differ from each other. Right? Meaning arises out of deference and out of postponement of meaning. There is a continuous deferral of meaning. Right? See, the problem doesn't end here only. There are many psychologists who say that our mind, we talk about our mind, right? That we have a mind. When does the mind come into being? If a child does not know, but if a child is not exposed to language in the early years of her life, will she be able to learn language at all? How do you know the world around you? Through language. That language may not be the language that you write. The language may be the language of the image, like a painter paints. right? That language may be the language of music also. That may be the language of dance also, right? So we know the world through language, and not only that, the language as it comes to you not only tells us what our world is, it also defines our world. This is very important for you to understand, that it defines our world. You know, when we were fighting against the English before our independence, we called Sardar Bhagat Singh freedom fighter. The English called him a terrorist. Two words for the same person. Now, if somebody tells you he's a terrorist, what kind of impression will you have in your mind? And if somebody tells you that he's a freedom fighter, what kind of word will you have? What kind of impression will you have in your mind? It will change. So language is not something very simple and innocent. We have to pay attention to language as it comes to us. Is it clear? And many psychologists believe that human mind is constituted like language. Right? Mind comes into being. Lacan is a very important thinker, Jacques Lacan, right? Who has said this thing, and it has influenced almost the whole of philosophy in the 20th century. That the mind comes into being when we acquire language. And is language our own? We acquire language. We don't make language. It is not our language. It is somebody else's language. And whose language it is? It comes from various sources. But what kind of language do we have around us? In a patriarchal society, we talk about mother tongue. Is it really mother tongue? No. It is the tongue of the father because he is dominant. He has the right to say everything. Women are silenced. Is it clear? So, we have to be very aware of all these issues, all these problems. If we really want freedom from our own prejudices also, right? If we want freedom from coercive ideologies, if we must try to understand our own selves. So this is how we require postmodernism. This is how we require critical theory. Thank you. To make my friends, I don't think that any talk will be complete without the speaker being questioned, without the speaker being challenged. See, the fact is that I don't know everything. I have my own prejudices also, right? I have my own predilections. So I am open to your questions if there are any. You have the freedom to have a flesh of pound.
Please go one by one.
Pound of flesh, as they say. Yes. Not only from students, but from the audience, my friends from this side.
मेरे साथ और स्टूडेंट्स बेटा जब हम जहाँ बैठे थे मैं इधर प्रॉब्लम हो जा रही साइड में मेरी आप डेस्क पे बैठा करता था तो प्लीज मस्ट मेरी तरह एक डब्ल्यूएसपी प्रोफेसर लेक्चर देने आए तो उन्होंने टेलीविजन पर ऐसे लेक्चर किया कि राइट आर्मी की चीज़ पर आना चाहिए तो मैं जवानी थी उस वक्त आप की तरह नौजवान थे स्टूडेंट होल्ड गन और दैट चेयर यू हैव राइट मैंने ऐसा सॉल्व कर दिया तो उसने आधा घंटा और लेक्चर दिया सो यू मस्ट आस्क
इसीलिए नहीं पूछ रहे कि आधा घंटा और लेक्चर
नहीं आधा घंटा नहीं लगेगा आप पूछिए आधा घंटा नहीं लगेगा कॉलेज में अभी संडे या सैटरडे को क्लास देता था तो मेरी अभी 7-8 घंटे चलती है
sorry, then I will forget. I have to comment on very interesting.
Might well.
My friend Shikraj was fond, spoiled, in his spoiled, favorite student of Arun Maharaj. He is a devotee of debunking classes. No? He said he never missed a class, but he is a devotee of debunking classes, quoting John Keats in these circumstances. He wrote an article debunking classes and he quoted John Keats. Is it? So he is a Shikraj. बेटे इन्होंने आगे किया कमिश्नर आंसर है ask him 100 questions, ask him 1000 questions, please you ask. मैं मैसेज ज़्यादा गल नहीं की शुक्रवार जी के बारे मैं अक्सर ये कहना ਹੁੰਦਾ ਹੈਗਾ ਵੀ ਜੇ ਕੋਈ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਇਮਾਨਦਾਰੀ ਦੀ ਸੜਕ ਕੋਈ ਗਲੀ ਨਜ਼ਰ ਆਉਂਦੀ ਹੈ ਤਾਂ ਉਹ ਇਹਨਾਂ ਦੇ ਘਰ ਤੱਕ ਤੁਹਾਨੂੰ ਲੈ ਕੇ ਜਾਊਗਾ Yes, madam.
So, as you discussed about technological sublime, right? And you told, like you told, I realized that it has actually disturbed the rhythm of human life and human nature. Plus, it has made us more dependent and is taking us away from our roots. Then, sir, how to deal with the drawbacks of the technological?
Well, you see, the first thing is that you should please sit down. The first thing that you should be aware of being misled. If you are aware of being misled, you will not be misled.
So what if like a person does not have those insights and doesn't have those
Well, then you remain the way you are. If you don't have the insights, then you remain the way you are. No, that's it. But at the same time, I tell you, the problem is that we don't think at all. We don't need even critical theory to think these things, right? We often talk about these things with our friends without even the help of critical theory, right? But critical theory does help us understand so many other things at the same time, right? The fact is that we have to, when you go back home before you sleep, just for 15 minutes, 10 minutes, think of what you did throughout the day. Right? You will see a change in yourself. The fact is that we don't think. This is where I blame the culture of speed. You see, the moment we receive a message, that very moment we are supposed to reply to it. Otherwise we get a call, message pe jaise mera jawab nahi deta. Right? I mean, it was not like that in the past. We used to write letters and wait for 15 days, 20 days for a letter to come back. Right? And we could think about what we are doing. The only thing is that we don't think that we are adopting.
Modern criticism talk. You have referred to 3 words: surveillance, consumer, and freedom.
Right?
But it so happens when a consumer goes to a shopping complex. Suppose, for instance, one of our daughters goes for a shopping with the idea to get a top. But it is idea of fate when she comes back to her residence, and when she sees that she has got pant instead of top. It is because of the so-called surveillance that her freedom is curtailed and subjugated. The idea of salesmanship is so sharp, which compels her to buy a pant rather than a top. Please elucidate.
Right, sir. See, surveillance affects us not in the way in which we, in fact, you were trying to say. I was not trying to say that somebody could buy something because of surveillance. No, it's not like that. The fact is that when you are under surveillance, for example, if you go to a supermarket, they will have your data. If you stand before an Alvera or you stand before, place where so many things are stacked, you spend some time there, you pick up something and then you keep it and then you move on.
See, all that data is then provided to the advertisers. And then what happens is that they will like to put different kinds of things there to entice you, right? I mean, what I was saying is that surveillance is everywhere in the sense that we are being watched. And when we are being watched, can we ever be free? That is my question. Right? You go to a restaurant. Yes, sir. Just a minute. You go to a restaurant. You are having your food and you know that somebody is watching you on the CCTV, how you are eating food. Your eating habits may be different from the habits of others. Right? Will you feel free to eat the way in which you want to eat? Surveillance acts in this way. Right? So far as making a choice is concerned, now I think if she went there to buy a top and then in place of a top she purchased a pen, there could be perhaps two motivations. Number one, in the first place, perhaps she didn't need a top. Quite possible she might have seen an ad more at this moment than the top. There could be many reasons for that. There could be many motivations for that. But surveillance itself does not make you buy something. Surveillance actually is something that controls your behavior, and it is for the future also, not for the present. You see how, I'll just give you one example of how things happen these days. You know how books are written. We believe that a writer writes a novel and the novel comes into the market. No, publishing is an industry. It's an industry.
Thank you so much, sir. The seminar was quite interesting and informative. I guess many of the students are now clear about postmodernism and critical theory as it's a subject in MA second year. Now I would like to invite Mr. Amit for enlightening us on Matta Foundation. Over to you, sir.
Don't worry, I'll be very brief. Honorable guest honor has already told you about the legend that Professor R. Matta was and the legacy that he has left behind. The whole idea of the foundation is to carry on that legacy, to keep propagating the values and the ideas that we stood for through our formal organization that we call Professor R. Matta Foundation. We at the foundation are indeed very delighted and honored that the college where he once studied and where he taught generations of students has given us the opportunity of hosting or facilitating this talk by Professor Swaraj. On behalf of all the office bearers of the Matta Foundation, I'd like to place on record our heartfelt thanks to our honorable guest of honor, Mr. Shivdular Singh Dhillon, Principal Ma'am Ranveer Likhariji, and the scholar speaker today, Professor Swaraj. We continue to organize such programs and programs similar to this for the benefit of the student community, not only of this college, but of this city. So once again, I'd like to thank the management of the college for giving us this opportunity of organizing this talk for you. Thank you so much.
And I guess, like my next quote, enjoy the little thing for one day. Enjoy the little thing for one day. You may look back and realize those were the big things. Today's seminar will prove exactly like that to us. Now I request Ma'am Principal to present a token of appreciation to our esteemed guest of honor, Shri Shevdullah Bhilanji. And I request faculty members also to join upon the stage. We also want to honor our dynamic resource person, Dr. Swaraj. On behalf of students of English Department, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to Dr. Swaraj for this tremendous session. I take this opportunity to thank Ma'am Principal, SCD Ma'am, and faculty members for today's seminar. Special thanks to Matta Foundation and a big thanks to all of you for being here today. Thank you once again. All again
I offer my compliments for the students also for giving such a